All right, one card on the bottom for Omar. Turn one Ponder. Crinky Doom not excited to see Urion. Misty Rainforest cracked here for Force of Fill. Finding a Tundra.
Oh, yeah. And of course, I target myself. Yep.
Here's a Portent.
I'll pass you.
Gift Badge Prince says I can't keep up with the big guns, but I can at least do my part. LOL. Thank you, Prince. Appreciate it.
I'm going to fetch a Savannah down to 19, and I'm going to cast an up.
Yes, sir.
I take that to mean results? Yep. So I just got to draw off of it. Just ponder and see.
Here's up the Beanstalk.
Fetching with the Urion deck. And then I will draw.
Trying it out too.
Woohoo!
All right, a Beanstalk for Phil now.
This card that I think I should try.
Force of Negation pitching Brainstorm from Omar. Looks like that's going to resolve. Phil passes the turn.
Yes, sir.
Here's Uro. So for Legacy Control Mirrors, it can...
22 to 19 I have.
Let's put it this way. Card advantage can matter a lot. And, okay, so kind of already canceled out what I was about to say. But having a Beanstalk in play might give Omar an advantage as this game goes longer. And countering Phil's Beanstalk can help maintain that advantage. Now that neither player has a Beanstalk, I guess they're at parity as far as Beanstalks are concerned. But for control versus control matchups like this, the outcome of the match could come down to who gets access to more cards. So we'll see how that plays out now that both Beanstalks are gone. Crinky says these Urion decks just play all good stuff. That's true. They are piles, I would say. And like Confidant says, Bant Miracle's interesting pile for sure. And then jam some bits in the chat. Thank you, like Confidant. Hype Train Conductor holding us down.
Let's cast the Fairy Time Raveler.
It's a Fairy Time Raveler on the stack. That's another card that could break parity. Phil's aware of it. Force pitching Portent. Volcanic Island played as land for turn. So, Phil will draw a card off Beanstalk here. Cracking Flood Strand, getting Mystic Sanctuary. High Train Conductor Light says Teferi is arguably one of the best cards in the mirror. Yeah, it's quite good. A4 Addiv, thanks for the sub with Prime. Appreciate that. You can become a member of the 90s MTG community for free with Amazon Prime, folks. Head over to our Twitch channel, sub for free, unlock our Discord, get the deck lists. I mean, it's a sweet deal.
I'm going to cycle Lorien Reveal.
Links down below for all of our memberships. I appreciate everybody that's become a member, Amazon Prime or not, especially those of you that are gifting memberships to others. Without the memberships for this channel, I'd have to close it down. If I'm being honest, it just would not be sustainable at all without paid members. And honestly, sometimes I think to myself, it's incredibly humbling that people would be willing to buy a membership and support this channel. So thank you, everybody that has a membership. If you're not yet a member, check our links below. Hitting the join button on YouTube, $2 US a month. Become a member of the family. All right, so double Beanstalk now on Phil's side. Uro is on the board on Omar's side. So this will be an interesting exchange at some point.
Yeah, counter result.
I'll stack it like that and draw.
When Phil casts a 5 or higher spell and draws 2 cards. It looks like Phil also has Swords to Plowshares in hand.
What am I landing for the turn?
Yep.
I don't know if Phil has Leyline Bindings in the deck. That I'm not sure.
And I'll wait for the land to play.
Does Omar fire off Wasteland here? Looks like the answer is no. So we saw earlier on today's stream, we saw myself in a match against Force of Phil, and I didn't respect the possibility of Entreat the Angels by chopping down Tundras. And we'll see if Omar also pays the price for that, although now Force of Phil has 3 possible white sources. Here's a Swords on Uro. Like Confidant says, you're an awesome host and you create content for Legacy. If it is Canlander or Legacy, you've got my attention. Thank you, Like Confidant. Like Confidant, a pillar of the community for sure. There's Mystic Sanctuary for Phil. What are we putting on top here?
I'll put force on top.
Force. Hard casting force now is Phil. 2 beanstalk triggers. This is exactly the exchange I was talking about just moments ago.
Oh, is this short still on the second?
Did Phil draw 2 or 1? I'm not sure. But just moments ago, I was talking about an exchange where up the Beanstalk, draw 2 cards will matter, and that is exactly what happened. So now Omar has an opportunity to chop down a Tundra. We'll see if that opportunity is taken.
I'll waste your vault.
Goes after Volk, okay. Here's Triumph of St. Catherine getting hard cast. Giving Force of Phil a Triumph of St. Catherine to deal with, but Phil has, it looks like double swords in hand, so Triumph is gone.
39.
Good.
People have been experimenting with Triumph of St. Catherine alongside Beanstalk in the tabletop Legacy format. Unfortunately, the Warhammer cards is not yet on MTGO, the CD-ROM version of Magic the Gathering. Deadline Binding getting hard cast here. Or Sorcery Speed cast here, I should say. It seems trying to remove one of these up the Beanstalks. Mystic Sanctuary happening here. I believe Phil's Swords to Plowshares are from the revised edition. Here's Force of Will getting hard cast. Force pitching Force to try to protect this Leyline Binding that then removes up the Beanstalk. See, we were talking about card advantage. This is Force of Phil getting way ahead here. Just casting Terminus to draw a card off Beanstalk. That's actually kind of funny. No creatures in play. Nice play there from Phil. Nuclear Weasel says, Chris, your Legacy channel has simply reinvigorated my love for Legacy. Seeing the community live and well through your videos gives me hope I'd be able to play frequency many of your guests had. If I had the spare money to subscribe and support, I absolutely would. And alas, having a child and playing Legacy at the same time is expensive. You know what, Weasel? I completely feel you. And no worries at all. I get it. I get it. As Light Confidant drops in a gift sub for Nuclear Weasel. Thank you, Light Confidant. Holding us down, I would say. But for those of you out there not interested in membership, no matter your reason, I get it. Trust me. I feel you. I feel you. I'm not a member of every channel I watch. No hard feelings there. There is the free membership with Amazon Prime. I'll plug again. But of course, you know, if you're just watching the channel having a good time, you're absolutely welcome to.
Just to our back. Four cards? Four cards.
4 cards and Force of Phil's hand. Looks like one of them is Force of Negation. One of them is Swords. Omar falling behind, I would say. It seems. Here's not the Beanstalk for Omar. Unlikely to resolve. Here's Force of Negation. He gets exiled.
Personal tutor?
Phil playing a Mystic Sanctuary, putting Force of Will back on top. Pass the turn. It seems like we're nearing the point in this game where it's unlikely that Omar will be able to stick a creature for long enough to win this game, or anything really. Looks like Phil also has Thwart in hand, which could return those Mystic Sanctuaries back to hand and start the Mystic Sanctuary chain all over again.
Yep.
Yep.
There's another Terminus from Phil. Draw a card. Just kind of cycling away those Miracle Terminus.
I will, at the end of your turn, I'll
Did you cast the Fairy Time Rattler?
Fairy Time Raveler countered immediately. Draw a card off Beanstalk. Hard Mode says, love legacy content, greetings from Germany, and then subscribes with Prime, 10 months. Thank you, Hard Mode. Appreciate that.
Go ahead.
Draw.
This is still game 1, chat. Triumph of St. Catherine. It will resolve. It seems like Phil doesn't give a damn about it. Mystic Sanctuary, Ponder on top.
Cast this?
Terminus, draw a card. Ponder for Phil.
This is 13. This is 13 coming in.
I think so.
I can see that.
Draw. And then I'll cast a Ponder.
Ponder resolves, says Phil. And it's a Ponder shuffle. This up the Beanstalk has put Phil quite a bit ahead on cards.
Results.
Another Ponder, it resolves.
Back it like that. Draw. And I'll attempt to cast the One Ring.
The One Ring, unlikely to resolve. Force of Negation.
Pass you.
Cards and hands?
I got 5 cards.
5 cards and Force of Phil's hand. One of them looks like Brainstorm. One of them looked like Force of Will. Kind of lost track now if there was a Force of Will drawn off Mystic Sanctuary. Not completely sure.
Need to cast 4th for 4.
4th Earlingus for Rohan.
Results.
Or whatever. It resolves.
I'm short 1 token, so I'm just going to use the space.
Oh, come on, Omar. Short 1 token. Give me a break. Attacking for 8. Brainstorm. And we're making some angels.
I'm gonna be.
Does Force of Phil have a deck list? Yeah, Force of Phil has a Mox field and keeps the deck list up to date on there. Oh, was the Brainstorm missed? Yeah, maybe the Brainstorm was missed. Force of Phil's hanging out in the chat. What's up, Force of Phil?
I'll go ahead and pass.
All right, so all of them are blocked. Phil has no interest in taking the Monarch.
5, 6 coming at you.
6 and 4 is 24, so I go down to.
Phil attacking for 24.
So that's 24 damage, right?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. 6 times 4.
And then I'm at 60.
Wow. Felt like a commander attack, chat. Phil's gonna let this Brainstorm resolve. It's unlikely Omar will survive here. I guess a Bring Verdict could happen. I don't think it's in the deck, though.
No, I'm dead.
I'm dead is right. That's game 1. Work to keep Force of Phil ahead. There's a Triome. I believe that's the Teamer one. And here's Portent for Phil off a Trop.
I'll shuffle and draw and draw.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, like, if it was like Philly, you know, Pittsburgh's a little bit more finesse.
Passing to Omar's upkeep, Phil will draw a card off Portent. There it is.
Cast Ponder?
Yes, sir.
Any other,
So both players will be trying to establish a way to accumulate card advantage over the course of this game. Up the Beanstalk, as we know, is in both decks, and could make a big difference who has the Beanstalk, who doesn't.
Yes, sir.
There's a Ponder for Omar.
Push and go.
Flooded Strand past the turn. Phil with triple Trop to start the game. Kind of interesting. Looks like Phil is holding multiple counter spells in hand. There was at least a Force of Negation and Force of Will in there, I believe. Fetching to 19 now is Omar.
I'm saying if I can record it because like that's how we talk a lot.
Grab a Tiger. Cast Brainstorm.
Fourth Earlingus X is 1. The Monarch is one way to keep card advantage. And Omar is about to take the Monarch. Phil, let it resolve. And step draw off the Monarch. Phil drops a Tundra. Passes the turn.
Mechanic Island. I'll go to combat. I'll swing for 2. 16. And then with Preserve, I will cast an Earl.
Roll.
Sure. Earl's triggers on the stack.
Uro's triggers on the stack, and Phil is going to Brainstorm. No miracles.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's like a normal.
Both on the bottom.
What's Phil's plan here for taking the Monarch? Swords on Uro. Dituako, thanks for the resub with Prime. 5 months. Legacy hype. Yes.
Put a land into play. And I will move to my end step. Monarch. Yep.
Monarch trigger draw. Phil cracking a fetch here.
I'm a fan.
Like I said, part of the reason why I want that. Even that game where I won,
There's a brainstorm for Phil.
the way to like have once I like welder and engineer and that, I can set up. Then like 2 activations. But I need this one. And part of the deal is like someone can show me control spells. Some people don't want to. I don't like where I don't. If I let something like that bother me, it's like it's so long. It's like getting mad when you last year.
Thinking on it still.
I played too many like high level matches.
Minus
Your deck does really well. My job to try to stop. I put them all to 4. Yeah.
Can I grab some Mystic Sanctuary and target the 4th Airline?
Sure. So like any of those like weird matches, you would learn stuff like turn 1 welder, turn 2 here, welder,
What's up?
the chaos filer, and now you're never gonna do it.
Untap. Draw.
I was thinking, is there anything that I could do with that? Not really.
Into 4th for 3.
Fourth Earlingus X's 3. Cosmic Rebirth in response.
So that gains 3 and it'll just basically go right into play, right? Yeah. That's fine. So you're at 18.
So it's 9 shots at 53. Okay. Still under 30%. Over 17. To be able to play
Phil most likely getting okay, not getting a Mystic Sanctuary. Okay. Getting a Tundra and a Volk. Force of Negation on 4th Earlingus, Flusterstorm. Now another Force of Negation and another Flusterstorm. Phil scoops it up. 4th Earlingus. Some pleasant good lucks before game 3.
Yeah, we're in.
I'll try.
What is the green in Phil's deck for? We saw up the Beanstalk. We saw Cosmic Rebirth. There's up the Beanstalk again.
Yeah.
Okay, tripping up this. Street is going into this pile.
So Phil has a draw trigger on Beanstalk on the stack here. Players moving ahead.
Graveyard or your library. Yeah. Put your graveyard on top of your library, then remove.
4th Earlingus looked pretty good there in game 2. I don't know if Phil is running 4th Earlingus. Maybe. Yeah, hard to play Entreat and 4th. All right, Brainstorm. For Omar. And as we saw in game 1, the Beanstalks could be a nice advantage. Floodstrand pass. Oh, those altars are proxies. They are altars. Phil collects altars. Yeah, the Beanstalk's not altered yet. Life from the Loam. Turn Flooded Strand, play it, pass.
Draw, reveal, triumph in response to the trigger. All that.
Triumph of St. Catherine hitting the stack here. Have to fetch to cast it. Its Miracle Trigger is on the stack.
Trouble battle. Cast it.
Force pitch, force.
Force pitching force. Draw a card off Beanstalk.
They added roiling for that.
So you know the Wraith is going in here. That'll be my card.
Play this tapped and I'll pass.
Mystic Sanctuary tapped. For Omar.
Yeah, I thought about it, but
Up the Beanstalk for Phil. Yeah, maybe we need to have their altars in the overlay.
Slow, but if there's a game.
I'll attempt to light, targeting the 2 fetch lands.
Alright, now I'll loam for Omar for 2 fetch lands. So both players have loam stuff going on, which is interesting. Somebody in the chat was asking earlier, what's the green in Phil's deck for? There's another answer for you, Life from the Loam. There's a Taiga for Omar.
Yeah, so I'm saying, yeah, just show your, make sure you show your chancellors and when they play cards, like, alright, I have this chancellor. That's all I gotta remember.
5 cards in Phil's hand.
Yes,
I'll attempt to land binding.
Leyline Binding. Trying to remove these beanstalks. It's gone.
I'm out.
Mystic Sanctuary, force on top. Says Phil. Looks like Phil also has Thwart in hand. Something to take note of. It's good at picking up Mystic Sanctuaries and jumping way ahead in the late game against other control decks. I mean, when you compare Phil's deck to Omar's deck, Omar's is definitely a bit more mid-range. Phil's deck is designed in a way where I think it can outlast. It's Fairy Time Raveler countered. Leyline Binding now. Trying to stop these Beanstalk triggers.
Actually, no. I'll grab a submit. I'm sorry.
End of your turn, cast Consider.
We may see Thwart get fired off here. Prince in the chat specifically went out of my way to buy Thwarts because of Phil. And Leyline Binding successfully removes the Beanstalk. Phil allows it.
That was before.
Wizard. Wizard mana. Good.
Do you want to draw?
So double Leyline has removed double Beanstalk. Phil with no fetches available at the moment to find sanctuaries. Here's Uro.
Draw. King 3 up to again. And I'll put Zagoth Triumph into play.
Zagoth Triumph comes in.
I'll pay 2 life and surgical hero.
That is
End step, paying 2 life to Surgical Uro. And we get a peek at Omar's hand. Leyline Binding, 4th Year Lingus, Brainstorm, and the Urion we just saw put there. So Uro getting Surgical. It's pretty good for Phil. We get some looks at Omar's deck. Looks like nothing unexpected so far. Those of you watching live in the chat and watching in the YouTube comments, have you ever surgicaled your opponent and found some really jank, weird card in their library and the memory stuck with you forever?
Real one.
At the risk of putting myself in
Yeah.
the
So now
I could have chosen not to.
Ever look through your opponent's deck and said out loud, "What the heck is this?"
I mean, it works. So.
Prince was on the receiving end of it. What was in your deck, Prince? 4 thoughts he's 1 land.
I would have
It just like
Stranglehold in mono red prison. I can't even remember what Stranglehold does. I forgot that one.
no, it's because I'd rather you just cast the Bomax. Like if you're gonna
3 mana Athreos. Okay.
I'll just take it. Because the worst is
Carpet of Flowers for the game.
playing around Bomax.
Carpet of Flowers. Getting ahead on mana, not big at the moment, but it could matter. Here's Yurion.
Then you can just kill my combo piece
Stranglehold. Can't tutor, can't take extra turns. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's spicy. Oh yeah, that sounds like an EDH card. Your opponents can't search libraries. That's a funny one. All right, Triumph of St. Catherine on the stack here. 3 cards in Phil's hand. Hasn't been refilling with Beanstalks. Yurion actually getting to attack. Phil without a Terminus in the yard to find with Mystic Sanctuary right now. At 10 life, hard casting Terminus. So that could change everything. All right, so Urion's going on the bottom of the library. Omar's going to swap the sleeve to make sure that's all good to go.
Yeah. But I think I have like the deck is just like
Triumph and the Urion are gone. Past the turn. Phil getting a chance to recover.
I'll think about the brainstorm.
Fourth, Erlingus. X is 4. And Omar will become the Monarch, but Phil's going to Mystic Sanctuary, put Terminus back on top. So these human knights will not be sticking around. Oh no! Okay, so not going to get to take the Monarch. Phil has a Brainstorm, is casting Terminus before damage. Ah, okay. Good play there from Phil. I got ahead of myself. Terminus back into the graveyard. I don't know if Phil has 4 Mystic Sanctuaries, but Thwart is in hand, which could matter. There's a Ponder for Phil. Phil has managed to stabilize.
Maybe you make that decision 80% of the time.
Mystic Sanctuary, target 4th Erlingus.
Mystic Sanctuary, 4th Year Lingus. I don't know if Phil cares about that.
In your end step.
Force of Vigor on end step, targeting the 2 ley lines. Ooh. Getting back those Beanstalks is huge. Beanstalks are down.
Best player probably within 1,000 miles from China.
I never got anything like that.
Phil draws 2 when they re-enter.
Portent target you.
Portent target you.
You know, it's like
All right, puts 4th Year Lingus as the 3rd card down, it looked like.
Pass turn and draw.
So your end step? I'll attempt to land binding.
All right, another leyline binding will remove one of the beanstalks. Phil will draw on upkeep. Omar trying to fight through.
Let him have the Zenith Swarm.
We know there's a thwart in Phil's hand, or at least it looks like there is. And maybe a fourth copy of Mystic Sanctuary?
He said he's playing a terrible deck.
Yep. Fourth copy of Mystic Sanctuary, putting Brainstorm on top.
Right. I was playing didn't realize Sage was like let it resolve.
Alright, Phil draws the Brainstorm, passes the turn. I think this draw would be fourth year Lingus.
Maybe there's just all tap lands and I'll get a chance to go in but I'll get to be able to untap with a Pyro.
Can Omar fight through this Mystic Sanctuary nightmare?
Attempt to 4 for 2.
Fourth year Lingus, X is 2. 3 blue mana, floated, and returning 3 Mystic Sanctuaries to hand with Thwart.
Hard counter, right?
This is a hard counter.
I'm protecting the information.
That is
What could
Fourth year Lingus is counter. Now Phil has 3 Mystic Sanctuaries in hand, so every turn could put something back on top. Thwart is in the graveyard. Force of Vigor is in the graveyard. Terminus, I think, is still in the graveyard.
I'll move the second main.
I'll use one of my blue.
either he's bluffing.
Phil using one of the blue that was floating for the Mystic Sanctuaries to cast a Brainstorm. Yeah, a lot of Sanctuaries. Passing the turn is Omar. Hard casting Force of Vigor. Up the Beanstalk back into play for Phil. Fetching with the trigger on the stack. Getting a Mystic Sanctuary. Mystic Sanctuaries is put back into the deck by Brainstorm, I guess. Thwart going back on top. Draws it off Beanstalk. It looks like Phil has completely stabilized this game. It looks that way. Here's up the Beanstalk, number 3. So a 5+ mana value card is draw 3 now, which obviously puts Phil quite a bit ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have to go to discard.
Oh, you're good.
I'm gonna discard a flash.
Discarding a fetch to hand size. Missed that for a moment. Yeah, it is impossible for Phil to deck. That's true. Here's Ponder.
All the random crap you want. Here's a cast pilot. Here's another cast pilot. Here's another cast pilot.
I'm gonna put Brainstorm on top.
All right, Mystic Sanctuary put Brainstorm on top.
Cast the One Ring.
The One Ring. Unlikely to resolve. Force of Negation. It's gone. Is Phil's win con still in treat? I believe so. There could also be Jace the Mind Sculptor in there. I don't know exactly. Fourth year Lingus, X is 3, Hardcast Force. 3 Beanstalk triggers. Flusterstorm on that. Fourth year Lingus, still on the stack. 3 Beanstalk triggers and Thwart.
Go ahead.
Returns those Mystic Sanctuaries to hand once again. Is Omar completely locked out of this game, chat? Mystic Sanctuary. I don't know if Phil brings in Triumph of St. Catherine in this matchup. I don't know. I actually don't have any idea. My guess is no, but I'm not really sure. It looks like Phil tapped the wrong mana for Cosmic Rebirth, but that's okay.
Which like isn't a bad thing, but
I will move to discard.
Discarding a Beanstalk, don't need that.
Cast up the Beanstalk.
Up the Beanstalk now for Omar, desperately trying to dig back into this game. It resolves. Omar gets to draw a card. Yeah, Triumph of St. Catherine is for the Delver matchup. At least generally speaking. Force of Vigor, targeting 2 Beanstalks.
Yeah, I'll fetch. 10.
One black, one red.
Hard cast, I draw 3.
Black, red.
Yes.
Sheesh.
Okay.
Force of Vigor, Force of Willed. Phil draws 3. Phil's engine is crazy, yeah. This is Force of Phil we're watching right now, chat. Don't forget. This is just Force of Phil doing what Force of Phil does best. You know how many matches I played against Force of Phil and it was just this, just counter everything I do? I don't want to play against Force of Phil anymore, to be honest. I think I'm done with playing Force of Phil. I think I'm over it. I quit.
Cast Fairy Time Raveler.
Omar's trying. Teferi on the stack, Force of Negation. Phil versus Chris equals bore you into concession versus confuse you into concession. That's an interesting take from High Train Conductor Audrey, but may be true. We saw Audrey play Ruby Storm earlier on today's stream, so factor that into your equation.
And it plays like DRCs. I've never heard of that.
I'll pass you.
It was the first deck that got ported.
We need Phil to hit a win con here, though.
4.
There it is. Entreat the Angels. That's what we all wanted to see. At least some of us. Do we have anybody watching that does not want to see Entreat the Angels?
I'll make 20 power.
All right, making 20 power, which should be exactly enough. 5 Angels. Draw 3 off the Beanstalk triggers. Mystic Sanctuary, Entreat back on top.
I will move to discard.
Discarding Terminus. Are we okay with these tokens because it's Phil? We'll see what the YouTube commenters have to say. We don't really know what they'll think about the situation. The One Ring. Thwart. Hard cast Terminus.
Tons of artifacts.
Hard cast the mind.
Damn.
Mind Break Trap hard cast. Dear God. Mind Break Trap ends the match. Good games.